Welcome to Global Village TV show with Show Cable. This is your host Ahmed Kasim. Today we have two guests, Mayor Martin Schultz from Brooks and Mayor Norm Boucher from Medicine Hat. Welcome to the show, please.
Oh, thank you very much.
Thank you, Ahmed.
Mayor Norm, would you please give us a little bit background of yourself?
Well, for me, I spent most of my adult life as a police officer from 19 years of age. I was with the RCMP for 30 years, worked in quite a few places, 5 different provinces, 2 UN missions, had all kinds of different responsibilities, and I had a great career. And then when I retired with them, I came here as the Chief of Police in Medicine Hat for 6.5 years, and I figured that 36.5 years in policing was enough, and then moved on. And then some friends were asking me if I would look at running for mayor, and that's how it happened in 2007. And now I'm on the second term as mayor for the city of Medicine Hat. Beautiful place.
Oh, that's great. What about you, Mr. Martin?
Well, thank you, Ahmed. Mine's not a little quieter than yours, Mayor. Moved to Brooks about 35 years ago and spent 30 years in the education field. Principal for many years, raised family in Brooks. So after having spent 30 years, like you said, when it's time to leave a career, you move on. And I was elected to City Council in Brooks in 2004 and then mayor in 2007 and again in 2010. So been in Brooks a while.
Both of you been elected 2007.
Right.
This is your second term.
Yes.
Could you please give us a little bit background about Medicine Hat, how the name Medicine Hat came?
Well, to start with, the first name of Medicine Hat was Samas, or the First Nation called that Samse. And the history is about the hat of the medicine man. So for many years, that's the way it was known. There's a lot of history here with the First Nations, basically because of the South Saskatchewan River. And of course, First Nation believed in different things, so the story is presented in different format. Much later on, the city was built because of the railway. When the CPR came through, this was their junction for servicing and making sure that there's all kinds of tracks that could be repaired and extended and provided service to other communities around, but out of Medicine Hat. And the surprising thing is, in those days, when they were putting down tracks, they found natural gas. But the CPR said at the time, we're not into exploration of minerals. We're into building a railway system. So it was found right here, so this is why the name of the gas city came about. It was the first place in Canada where they found natural gas. It was shallow wells, didn't have to dig very deep in those days. And you still see lanterns downtown with natural gas. This is the lights. Some of them are saying it's not bright enough now, but the reality in those days, it certainly fit the bill. So this is how Medicine Hat was built. Of course, around it, there's a lot of agriculture. There's a lot of farming. There's a lot of interest built with the river itself because you need irrigation. It's a semi-desert climate. So a lot of history in this community. The archaeologists, actually, if you really look at their map, will pinpoint spots on their map almost everywhere in Medicine Hat and surrounding. So there's still a lot of arrowheads, for example, being found in this area. So a lot of history. We moved into a very progressive community today, about 62,000 population, still tied with the railway system, still tied with farming and ranching, but then there's all kinds of other things that have come about because of the natural gas.
Okay, that's good. What about Brooks? That's called the City of 100 Hellos.
Well, Brooks is named after a railroad person. When they came through there, the man at that stop was named Brooks, and so it was named after the railroad guy who happened to be there at that spot, and there was nothing there at that time, but it became a collection place for people to bring their cattle to load them on. So it was a cattle ranching area. Then as the railway tried to figure out how to make more value out of the land, they went into the irrigation business, and that's why we have Lake Newell, largest man-made lake in the province. So agriculture with the irrigation, intensive irrigation, it's the largest agricultural district in the province. And so along came very, very specific irrigation, farming, and then natural gas, oil industry as well. And so we have those combinations of agriculture, of natural gas and oil, and tourism. We now have the Lake Newell to the south of us, and to the north we have the Dinosaur Park, so tourism is a large part of our world as well.
Mr. Norm, how would you attract investors to this beautiful city, the gas city?
Well, for many years, you know what, the workforce wasn't there. The unemployment was about 1%. Right now it sits at about 4.5%. Whoever wants to come to the community to develop or to bring business will need to have a workforce, one. Secondly, traditionally, the work and the investment was because of the natural gas. If you look at Canadian Fertilizer, if you look at Goodyear Tires, if you look at Criterion Catalyst, Can Carb, many industries like this, they're really tied in. They need a good amount of natural gas. We have a shortfall of water, though. We're limited in water and access to water. So anybody that would come here, if they require a lot of water, for example, for their business, would not be the best place. The other thing that's really suitable for us is, first of all, it's very affordable. When you look at tax base, when you look at utility base, utilities are the lowest in the province every month. When you look at tax base for a city, we're the second lowest in Canada. So if an industry would like to come here, we have a lot of sun in Medicine, usually known as the city that has the most sun in Canada. So if you have any interest, for example, in solar panels, building solar panels and implementing that, or creating energy with solar panels, then you're in the right place. We have wind, not as much wind as some other places in Alberta. We still have wind, so if you want to make industry or energy with wind, you certainly could do that. But we have also, not just natural gas, the city itself makes its own electricity. So anything that's be derived from electricity is right here. And there's also oil in this area. So if there's industry that's tied into drilling wells and things like this, good place to be.
Oh, that's great. Brooks and County of Newell.
You know, there's lots of similarities between the areas of Medicine Hat and ourselves. Of course, we're all jealous of your industries in the sense of what you have as a city for your utilities. It's just fantastic that you have that opportunity because it is a great attraction to have that benefit. We do have transportation networks, and ours were located on the Trans-Canada Highway, Highway 36, which is the provincial highway designated for taking oversized loads to Fort McMurray. And there's a tremendous amount of now loads moving up and down Highway 36. So with the railway, the two transportation corridors, it's a great location for that. We're an hour from Medicine Hat, hour and a half from Calgary. So the access, in a sense, for us, we believe it's a good point for business to locate. Land is, we've got lots of land to develop that's inexpensive. When we hear the prices, for example, from Calgary for their industrial land, ours is a real deal. And so that we have interest in that and people coming to look for it. So it's a good location to develop a business in.
Coming back to development and growth, regional development, that's the best way nowadays. You have to look at if the economic viability of the area needs to be growth. Like city like Medicine Hat, big city, my understanding is you have Alliance Regional with Red Cliff and other places. How the small city will react to join development in a big city like city of Medicine Hat?
Well, first of all, I think the first stone you want to put down is having a good tourism base. Mm-hmm. People have to come and visit and see, does it fit for me, for my family, for my business, as a potential to come here? So we've changed our approach to tourism, and we've asked the people we have contracted out. The city pays close to $300,000 in tourism every year, contributes to make sure that it happens. Once that happens, and then you have people at least have seen how we live and what's affordable, what can actually fit into this community. The second thing is contributing in partnership. We are the biggest partner when it comes to EDA, which is actually the Economic Development Alliance. It's a partnership that includes quite a few communities around. And then we also contribute into Palliser Economic Partnership, and of which Brooks was a member. But it's a little bit bigger. Smaller communities outside, a little bit further out, to see what can actually be brought here as far as potential business. Just a good example of that, just to tell you. Edmonton area has the biggest area to do metal fabrication, welding, machine shops and stuff like that. Why is it there and not? That can be anywhere. I mean, you can build something with metal. Why not Medicine Hat? We have some, but we're so small compared to that area. So Palliser Economic Partnership is really focused on that, and I think it's starting to catch on. So how you sell yourself, we have a workforce now. We have the connections. We're still on Trans-Canada highways. If you want to ship something, whether it be the rails or by semi-trailers, it's available. So those are the things. You have to talk. And where I'm a little bit disappointed is that the province did not, they contributed, but they pulled out quite a bit of money into economic development. But all of us have interest to make sure that we have better jobs, and that's for everybody. Because a community is not just about the roadways and having clean water. It's about the people itself. So I think with good economic development, it pays off for everybody.
Small community or large community?
All of them. All of them. You know what? You may want to be more peaceful, for example, in your living, and a lot of times in a small community, your lots will be bigger than you will have in a larger city. But if you don't, maybe you have, for example, your own septic system. Maybe you have your own well. And something. If you can do it, that's fine. That's fine. And if you prefer to live there, but most of them will commute somewhere for their job, whether it's through education, health care, some business and so on. So the large city should be and can be the big brother to the other communities around, and that's what we try to be.
Oh, that's a good one. Coming back to that same question is Mr. Martin Schultz. Brooks Count of Newell partnership when it comes to economic development. As you know that small village, small town in our area in Count of Newell, how would you be able to put together the regional economic development is similar to the one that Medicine Hat and the partnership have?
Well, and you're making an excellent point in the sense that you start on the base and you build that partnerships around you, and you've got the economic alliance. And so what we've done in the county of Newell this past year is reformed our economic development. Rather than the county having theirs, we have the city of Brooks having ours, and the other municipalities, as we call them, having nothing. We have reformed that this year into a comprehensive economic development committee that we're all at the table, we're all working together. Whether development, like you say, is in Tilly, whether it's in Brooks, or whether it's in the county of Newell on its own, it all benefits us all. And so we need to work together. Dollars are scarce. Resources are scarce. So if we can put together and focus it to attract those people into our area, attract those businesses there, the region will be healthier if we do it together. So that's why we've reformed economic development and joined together this past few months, actually, getting that committee up and running, and to focus on the county of Newell in the sense of let's all be working together rather than two teams and some with none. So we're working together with that.
Thank you, that's good. Now coming back to the economic again, in order for business to succeed, they will require manpower. We have aging population. Largely nowadays we have wave of immigrants coming to our areas. How do you see, or how would you be able to have that diversity in Medicine Hat in order for the business to grow and have manpower?
Like I said before, the community is not just about the road systems and having water and fire service. It's about the people and how do they fit in, how do they mesh together. If you look at the larger city like us, for example, with the hospital, our education system may be bigger, having jobs, enough jobs, and good paying jobs. It's one thing to have a job at minimum wage, but it makes it very difficult, especially if you have a young family to raise them, because I know the price of diapers is pretty expensive, never mind anything else. But so what you have to do is you have to listen to people, you have to be in tune with the community to say, okay, and I know, for example, in Brooks, it's a lot more diversified than it is here. But we have a lot of people that come here. You got to remember one thing. Canada was built by foreigners. The First Nations were really hunters and fishermen, and some of them were actually farmers, for corns and whatever else. But the infrastructure in Canada was built by foreigners. They came in with all kinds of ideas and money, some of them, And it hasn't stopped, and it won't stop. This is the way you have to welcome people, but there has to be a fit. Now, the only way there's a fit in your community, in my community, is if we talk and understand them. And anybody that comes from other countries will tell you, sometimes it is a big shock coming to Canada, coming to this region. Look at the winter we've just seen the last few days.
Yeah.
If you're coming from a warm country, and without the proper language, without maybe the knowledge of the culture that exists here and so on, we have to bend as much as they have to learn. So it's very important that it has to be a mix like that.
So when you say this side, apart from Ontario and Quebec, which have succeeded diversity for many years, Western Canada, especially Alberta, being a cowboy area, cowgirl, is still getting to used to the new wave of different faces. That's the facts of life, and that comes back to the acceptance of the newcomers to the area. As much as they will have cultural shock, language, the system. How do you see involving the two together, even though Medicine has less compared to a small city like Brooks?
But it's still growing.
Yeah.
It's making sure they fit in. Now, just to give you an example, I got a phone call this week from somebody from Sudan. Phoned me and said, because before Christmas there was some issues. Had a hard time. They thought that maybe the police was on their case or whatever it is. And I said, look, you have to talk with the chief of police. I gave them the phone number, and I said, look, if I can help you, I'll go. You want me to go?
Yeah.
No. Phone me this week and said, we solved this.
Mm-hmm.
Good. This is one of the things. So we have to learn about other culture.
Yeah.
And the people that come here have to learn about us and have to try to infiltrate and really fit in to what exists here. Now, there are jobs here. This is a big plus. You go to other provinces, you may not have jobs.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the number of jobs we lost in Canada, Alberta and Saskatchewan are the only one that created jobs.
Yeah.
So you need money to feed your family and yourself. So we know that. It's a matter of making sure that the people fit together. So, and it starts with education. Now, the big challenge, as you know yourself, the big challenge for anybody coming from other countries, my wife came from Europe. I mean, she's a new Canadian. Is the first generation. The first generation is hit with all kinds of things. How do you get a driver's license? How do you fill income tax forms? To name it. It's all very complicated to people coming from outside. We have to help them. We have to explain to them how it works. And that's only done by listening. You have to listen. What is it that they do not understand? What is it that we can make it easier? And it is by us accepting that they come with different culture, different religion, different languages, and that you have to sit down. Both sides have to be tolerant and patient. But the more people that come, and this is how probably my generation, many generations ago, my family came into that. I mean, we were new, I'm sure. And probably was even tougher because there was no system. In this community, we just had a meeting this week about eliminating poverty, and that's for everybody. Mm-hmm. You can have local people as poor as new immigrants that come in with very, very little money in their pocket. We have to work together. We have different groups that can help. So in my city, in Medicine Hat, I can tell you right now, there is no need for somebody to starve, so we will have food, we will have clothing, and we will have shelter for you if you want it. It's a matter of knowing where is it that you go to get it. It's available. So start from there. And after that, as you mix, because you can't help people that don't want help.
Yeah.
And some people are very proud. They're really reluctant to asking for help. So that's the way it is. And I think you got to move forward on this one and build a community together. We're already mixed. By the way, I just want to, this is something a lot of people don't know. We have a lot of people that come, that live in Medicine Hat that actually were German ancestry. Some are Dutch ancestry. We have some that are actually First Nation, as we know. We have some that are Japanese. Like, this is not new, except now we're doing things maybe a little bit differently. Communication and transportation is open to everybody, so you're seeing more influx. But we have to work together on this one. We breathe the same air and drink the same water.
When I talk about diversity, always diversity meaning that the wave of the current immigrant, which comes largely from Latino or Asia or Africa, The diversity also included those who come from Denmark, Ireland, Scotland, and those European immigrants. Immigrants and immigrant newcomers and newcomer when they are new to our society. Coming back to Mayor Martin, you were the pioneer of that 100 Hellos documentary, which was done by Brandy, as you know, which was great. You to help that out. What would other people you think will see and benefit from watching that?
Well, Ahmed, that sort of fits in with the question that Mayor Boucher answered, in the sense that Quebec, 400 years ago, they were new immigrants, right? In Alberta, it's only 100 years, basically. So when you talk about the documentary that was done, there is probably more of things that you alluded to, in a sense that people who came in the 40s, 50s, they had to do these things on their own in Alberta. They had to get the language. They had to do those things. So the supports that are there now are different. And I think some of the people in more recent times say, well, how come these supports are here now when we didn't have them? So when you see a documentary that you refer to that was done on the city of Brooks, I think you see what people are needing to come. They need those things so they can gain the economic value we need them to do. They need those languages. They need to learn it quickly, because we need the employees, right? Yeah. We need the employees to get out of those minimum jobs, those minimum paying jobs, because we've got the jobs that pay more, but you've got to have the language. So I think the documentary that you refer to shows the community that, like when we had citizenship court, there was from 57 different countries the one time. It's not just one area. They're coming from all over the place because they can get an economic value right away. They can go to work for jobs, but they need to move in the economic levels that we want. We want to be able to buy houses, buy vehicles, do those things. So they need to move to the better paying jobs for themselves and their families. So a documentary like you refer to shows you the community that has changed significantly. 15 years ago, there was probably one ethnic family in Brooks that people would say that they remembered. Now, everybody knows everybody is ethnic because that film showed the change in our community. When you have 2,500 people that have come from different countries in the world, it changed. And so I think that documentary showed, that have seen it, that the community really has changed, but for the positive.
Coming back now to the safe community. Everyone would like to live in a safe community, as you well know. Gangs, crimes, people don't associate with if they want to live a family and safe community. How Medicine Hat is doing, and your background is police?
Well, actually, we have the lowest crime rate in Alberta. That doesn't mean we don't have crime. We have the highest crime solve rate. In other words, we solve crime. That doesn't mean we solve all crimes. Mm-hmm. You see, you have to read correctly into that. That's the way it is. I had a boss many years ago that said, you know what, if we had no police officer, we'd have no crime. You know why? Because the statistics are only taken from the police. They're not taken from the courts. The courts will tell you their statistics, how many cases they do, and what is the end result. But how many crimes is out there recorded? It comes from the police. But I got to tell you, this is something you always have to work on. You know why? Because a lot of people are greedy, particularly organized crime. They can make money very, very fast with drugs, with prostitution, with stolen goods, and things like this. So this is where you have to be working together. Whether it's the RCMP in Brooks, whether it's our police service working with Calgary, Lethbridge, all the people around, to try to eliminate the big players in organized crime. That won't stop the break and enters that may happen in your neighborhood, or a fight, because that's also a crime that happens at the bar. But you have to have a control that if organized crime becomes a bigger business than government, we got a problem. Mm-hmm. But in the last 5 years, crime rate has gone down. So we're on the right track and still have a lot of work to do, and still have to focus a lot about organized crime. But we're on the right track, and I think most people feel secure. Yes, things can happen.
When you mention it's a good point. The territoriality that you probably remember and understand between one police force and the other, you've been instrumental in helping with the police force of Medicine Hat, with the RCMP, because the crime guys know no boundaries.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the advantages that you bring to the mayor, your background here of the city of Medicine Hat, and it's been an advantage to us in Brooks of making sure that the city police force and the RCMP work together. And that's been an advantage when RCMP can come to Medicine Hat and learn some things here that are happening, and they can also come to Brooks and see something different there. So really appreciated your cooperation in that.
Well, it started a while ago. I remember when I was chief of police to say, well, you got to talk, because what happens is you have a young police officer, and technically, and I don't want to go into a lot of details, but with the RCMP, they'd rather send a recruit from Regina, right out of training, basic recruit training, to Brooks or Red Cliff or whatever it is. You know why? Because there's no cost to it. The first posting is free. But if you're going to transfer that member to another place, you have to pay. That means you have a lot of young members. And what I was noticing is there's a lot of members outside in Red Cliff and Brooks and wherever. And I said, they each have information, particularly about drugs and the organized groups. We have to make sure we all talk. Right. So we have to invite it. So let's start with that. The second thing that's really important to know is this is the only province where we have a group called ALERT, Alberta Law Enforcement Review Teams, which means now the provincial government will put money and resources to help the different police services to work together. That is a big plus, because then you can have a better focus. Otherwise, you're only fighting your own little world, when right next door you may have, you know, a bad situation. Vice versa, it could be anywhere for that matter. But so
Okay.
we're on the right track. We're doing good, and like I said, in the last 5 years, the statistics are really on the positive side, going down.
And often with the change in populations we have, the existing population will blame the newcomers. And so that's a challenge that we have as well, is for them, the newcomers, to understand the role of police, and you mentioned that earlier, but also that understanding that we're all in this together and need to work at it together, and don't be blaming the newest person on the block. And that's a challenge we have.
But you know, in reality, if somebody breaks into your house while you're gone to church or shopping or whatever it is, you don't care where that person come from, where they were born or whatever it is. You just don't want anybody in your house. So you have, this is where you have to work together.
Yeah, that's right. And building the trust between the newcomers and the police is a very major factor of policing and having a safe community. But I think that will be the conclusion of our segment of today, the two mayors. And my the final thought is do you have any thought of next election being running as a mayor again, or?
Well, that's 2 years down the road, so there's a lot of things that come in. The thing about as you get a little bit older, Ahmed, you're not there yet, but as you get a little bit older, your health has to be there. Okay. And you know what, as a politician, you need a lot of energy. It has to be at that level. So for me, that is, and with my family, I mean, if my wife wants to continue supporting me, she's been 100% great support. But you know, those are the things you have to review. But we've got 2 years really to review.
To think about.
Yeah.
Same thing you.
Same thing with you. But again, the cooperation that we've had between the City of Medicine Hat, we were in a group of mid-sized mayors, but to have the cooperation we have with Medicine Hat, you coming to events in our community, very much appreciate it. We enjoy coming to events in Medicine Hat, so enjoy the relationship we have with the City of Medicine Hat.
And likewise, I mean, you know what, and the other thing is for me is I like cultures. I like to learn. You show me some different dances, songs, whatever, language. I know 4 languages, but this is, I love it. I thrive on that stuff. So,
well, I thank you very much for coming to Global Village Show, and we hope to have you next time.
Thank you very much.
Good luck on your new show, Ahmed.
Yeah.
Thank you
very much. Thank you, Martin.
Good.
Yeah, this was Global Village TV show with Shaw Cable. This is your host, Ahmed Kasim, and thank you, and hope you will join us next time. Until then, have a nice evening.